Hello and welcome to the Comixly Podcast, the official podcast of Comixly.com. Thank you for joining us for episode 2. On this episode, my co-host Angela and I are going to be talking about Sufjan Stevens' new album, The Ascension. This album came out a little over 2 weeks ago on September 25th. We recorded this shortly after it came out, so these are very much first impressions, and I think you're definitely going to hear us struggling and sort of wrestling with what we think of this album. Where does it sit in relation to his other music? Sufjan is someone who means a lot to me, and sort of was someone I introduced Angela to, and so he has, it means something to us in that it is an artist that we share, and so I think you'll hear us wrestling with kind of how do we think about this album in comparison to some of his other works that we really enjoy. It's an album that definitely is asking you to listen to it multiple times and really think about what is going on inside of it, because Sufjan always has more to say than just what is on the surface, and I think that's also true for this album as well. Again, that's Sufjan Stevens' album The Ascension. That's our topic for today, and without saying too many more words, we're going to get into the episode. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Comixly podcast. You're here with Joseph and Angela again today, and we're gonna try to talk about the new the new Sufjan Stevens album, The Ascension, that came out last Friday, September 25th. If you can hear us sort of humming and hawing, I think it's because we're both a little. Well, Angela's humming and hawing for different reasons than me, but we're both. I think we're both probably like thinking about like totally what to make of this album. But yeah, so this is Sufjan's new album. He, it's not like we've been waiting on a new one for him for a while. He put out an album, I think it was either late last year or early this year. It was mostly an instrumental album called Aporia. He put out a couple of songs last June for Pride Month that were really good. He had a couple of songs come out for the movie Call Me by Your Name. Did you see that movie, Ange? Did you ever see that movie?
No.
No?
I heard songs from it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's good. He had 2 songs in there. So the last 18 months we've gotten a lot of Sufjan music. But yeah, so I guess I don't totally know where to start with this. I was definitely excited for it because I don't seek out new music too much anymore. There's a couple people that I'm like, if they put an album out, I'll make sure I get it day one. Like Sufjan, if Kanan ever put out another album, maybe like Carly Rae Jepsen, but not even. I don't even think I have her latest album. There's just not too many people.
Taylor Swift?
I still haven't listened to Folklore. I told you I would. I still gotta listen to that album. So this was definitely exciting. So I downloaded it Friday morning, and it's, I can't say I wasn't like, oh, what is this? Because it's his last. I think he put it out in 2016. He put out an album called Carrie and Lowell, which was about the passing of his mother and sort of dealing with that and his childhood with her summer she spent in Oregon with her, and it's a really good sort of sparse in places, but busy in others, like a really beautiful album. And we went to see him when he came through Milwaukee for that album when he was on tour. And so I guess I was hoping for something a little bit more in that vein from him, because I think some of Sufjan's best stuff is when it's like a little bit more stripped down, a little bit more folky, a little bit more acoustic. And this album is none of those things. So I was definitely surprised listening when I going through those first few songs. But yeah, so what about you, Andrew? What were your like first impressions when you listened to it?
Yeah. So I listened to it yesterday when I was playing The Sims. So I can't say that my attention was on it 100%. But actually no, I listened to it the day before that too, and I was also playing The Sims. And like I remember when I first heard it, I was like, "Ooh, I'm not gonna have a lot to say about this," because I don't know, like I'm not as big of a fan as you are, but like I really liked the music. Lyrically, I didn't really like understand a lot of it, I guess, because sometimes just with like song lyrics, it's just a little bit like, if it's like, I don't know, like, does this make sense?
Yeah, no. Song lyrics are sometimes hard to hear, right?
Like, especially like his, because also like I feel like his is like really like deep or like metaphorical, and I'm not so much that. Well, but I like the way it sounded.
Okay, I guess, like, is there a specific song whose sound you're like, oh, I really like this?
Yes. Run Away With Me, there's the piano melody in the background I really liked. I really like the video game and the Ascension.
I like made a list of, and we'll get to this in a second. I made a list of the songs. Like, these are like Sufjan all-timers. I don't think this album is like a Sufjan all-timer, but these songs are definitely Sufjan all-timers, and Run Away With Me and the Ascension are absolutely on there. So that's interesting. I guess because like I get that. So that initial disappointment for me was like, because I was hoping for a little bit of a different sound, and he's done like electronic stuff, right? You've heard Vesuvius, right? Yeah, he's done like an album that's like totally electronic. It was called The Age of Odds. That album's probably like 10 years old. It's really good, and it's definitely one of my favorite. But it's like
I would listen to it. That was like when I was in like 7th grade, and I would listen to it and like make sure that everybody could see it on YouTube on my computer, so they would know I was like not like other girls.
Very cool. I love that. But yeah, so that's a really good album. I did like, I guess I was like, I don't know if I want like more electronic music from him. But even when we went to that Kieran Lowell album, like even with him like playing the guitar, like playing the instruments, they're like, there were like synth drums or like a drum machine that he used to like make repeating, like the bass repeat. And I think like Blue Bucket of Gold, the last song, when it was like a church in there. That's actually like the most electronic song on the album, and he played it for like, or the music went on for like 10 minutes without any words, and it was just like we were like in church together. So he does this type of music really good. And so yeah, after that initial listen, it was like, okay, he made this, and it's good. It's a baseline of quality that you like come to expect from, because I love the way his voice sounds, and I do love the way he puts sounds together. But then the more I listened to it over the weekend, I was like, oh, like the music is like pretty, it's like complicated, and there's a lot of layers, and like I just started finding he does this thing good, like you said, like the piano melody, right, where there's like in a song there will be one particular like noise, right? One particular instrument that is just doing something really, really beautiful. In the song, the first song on the album, which is
Make me an offer I cannot
yeah,
refuse.
like the way I can't describe what the sound is, but there's this one sound, and it's almost in the way that he says the refrain is like kind of matches what this sound is. It's a beautiful song, and like that's one of the ones I'm going to come back to. Run Away With Me, like you said, The Ascension, Ursa Major, and Goodbye to All That. Like those are the ones as I listen to it. I'm gonna come back to these a lot because there's something like really beautiful about them. So like, and I think that's, probably the case with music, like most of the times. Like, I don't know the album that I've listened to the first time through and just like, this is great, right? I think part of it is like it grows on you, and like its meaning is revealed with like multiple listenings. It's funny that you said like Sufjan's usually, like, he is, right? He's usually like a really metaphorical with his lyrics. Did you listen? Did you get through it all once? How much, or like, did you just kind of find your songs and keep going back to them?
I had it just playing, and then like sometimes there was like a 10-minute long song there. I forgot which one it was, and like I skipped that one like 5 minutes in.
Yeah.
So if I got like bored, I skipped it.
Yeah.
But then that was the first time. And the second time, I just went back to the ones that I actually liked.
Okay.
Like I was like 4.
Because I would say this is maybe one of his least metaphorical albums. Right? Because there's the one song on here. What's it called? It's called Die Happy, and the only words on it are "I want to die happy." Like he just says that over and over again, while the music's playing. And then if you listen to the song Ascension, actually, like, I think what this album is about is like pretty obvious in that song. And like there's a really good interview on The Guardian with him about this album and like why he made it and when he started working on it. And I'll like put that in the show notes for anyone who wants to read it. But if you listen to some, so there's one line in Ascension. You said I should answer for myself as the ascension falls upon me, and I think this album is about some sort of like something sort of like falling away from him, right? Something like being revealed to him, right? And in the article with The Guardian, he talks a lot about how this album was like he was like very motivated to make this album. It started post Donald Trump getting elected in 2016, but like really sort of kicked into gear early this year when the pandemic hit, with how like that was handled by the government, and then like this summer with all of the political unrest and the Black Lives Matter movement, he talks a lot about how his politics evolved over the course of the year, and like this album is heavily influenced by that. And he's an artist, and he's making art that's like reacting to the moment, right? I think any good artist should and does. And so I think in a sense there's not a ton of metaphor. I think if you listen to something like The Ascension, it's talking about like sort of what's being revealed to him, and sort of what he's seeing for the first time, right, which is like huge, like, right, like issues with systemic racism and like huge gaps in income inequality, and like issues with immigration, and how people of Black and brown people of color are treated in this country, right? Like this is something that he is dealing with at the same time as a lot of other people. But something he said in that article that I thought was really interesting is he said he feels, so he made an album called Welcome to Michigan, and he made another one called Illinois, right? So he made these two
Oh yeah.
albums, right, specifically about states, and he said in that article that he feels that they're like kind of naive in that they're a little bit, he uses the word like celebratory of like America or like Americana specifically around those states. But if you like listen to those albums, I think he's like they're pretty. I guess I wouldn't call them celebratory, right? Because I think something that Sufjan does in like so much of his music is capture sadness and melancholy really, really well. That's like I guess I come to his music for that like feeling of melancholy. Just because I don't know anyone else who can make music that like makes me feel that way. But I think it's in Michigan, like, or I think it's in Illinois. There's a song about like the serial murder or John Wayne Gacy, right? And like how he abducted young men, like just like the really messed up things that he did with them once he abducted them and killed them. And so I guess I find it interesting that he described his music as those albums as like celebratory, and sort of naive, and like those are Illinois is probably my favorite albums of his. Yeah, that's probably my favorite album of his. Yeah, so I don't know, like, did you find like any message in the songs that you listened to a couple times, or?
Yeah, I guess like the one that seemed like most straightforward to me was Video Game. And I was sort of like, I like Googled the song or whatever, and it says that Video Game is accompanied by a video directed by Nicole Ganelli and choreographed by the teenage creator of TikTok famous Renegade Dance, who also performs the dance. And I was like, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Did it say anything about what he was like trying to communicate with it? I didn't actually watch this video. I didn't know any of this.
Well, I'm looking at genius.com. And it says that he said regarding the song, it's unfortunate that we live in a society where the value of a person is quantified by likes, followers, listeners, and views. Which, like, I think just going back to like how they had this TikTok dancer in the video was like an interesting choice, because I feel like that in a lot of ways sort of like is the culture that like he's not really a fan of.
Yeah. That was one of the ones I sort of like was writing a little bit about, so video games, right? They're like this like scripted thing, right? They kind of happen, right? Sometimes you get a game like we talked about last week, like Oxenfree, right? Like they can end a couple different ways, but even so, the ways, like, there's only a couple different ways it can end, or there's just one way it can end, right? It can only happen like one way, and I think he's right. I don't think he's someone that he's not someone who's like comfortable being. I guess I don't know how he feels about his fans, but he's not someone who's like probably comfortable with like being looked up to, right? I don't think he wants to like be a role model, right? I think he wants to like make his music and put it out there and try to say something, like, but don't make him into something that he's not, right? Don't force him to be something that he's not. I don't know.
Jesus.
Don't be. He does say his own.
Yeah.
Right. He's not. It's I guess that's why I say I don't like. There is metaphor in this album, but like I think it is probably one of his least metaphorical albums, right? I think it's like a lot of it is right there. And this is funny. So John, our brother, he went to see him. I think it was on the Carrie and Lowell tour, and he was telling me how like he was kind of, and I think this was the case. I'm pretty sure this was the case when we saw him in Milwaukee. He had like a Hustler T-shirt on, which was kind of like a men's magazine. And when I think when he was in Portland, John was telling me how he was like kind of upset because Sufjan was wearing like a T-shirt from like a local strip club, and John was like thought that was kind of gross, and like I don't know. I was like, why do you care? I guess I was like, I don't know why he cared, right? Like, maybe he thinks it's funny. Like, I don't know, but I think that kind of like don't make this guy or like expect from this guy something like he makes he makes the music and like, but beyond that we don't know him. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna have to check out that thing for video game. That's cool that he put that the girl who actually started Renegade in there, because like she did not get credit for that dance for like a really long time. So that's good. Yeah, so I guess I don't know if I have like a ton more to say. I definitely, if you're a fan of Sufjan, you're probably gonna check this out. I don't like one thing that I struggle with him is like who does he sound like, right? Because like he's not like just folk music. He's not. I'm like I don't know who to be like. If you like X, you'll like Sufjan, right? Like, do you have an idea? Would you?
I don't really know because like I don't listen to this kind of music a lot.
Okay.
Like, this like it's funny because when I was listening to it, it just reminded me of like you reminded me of like John and like Dave and Rebecca because like you guys are all like hippies. Some of you guys all kind of have that vibe. Okay. So I don't know.
All right. Well, I'm glad I'm glad you think of us.
I think you're cool.
Thanks, Ange.
You're welcome.
I haven't listened to this band. I've heard him compared to like the band Waxahachie. I've never listened to them. I don't know if that's a fair comparison. But maybe if you like them, you'll like this. But yeah, it's like a good album. I think the last thing I want to say is one of the other reasons I struggled with it a little bit initially is because even in those first couple songs, I could tell I like listening to some of the lyrics. I was like, I could tell it was responding to like now, right? I didn't know exactly what it was trying to say. I was like, oh, this is music that's responding to what's going on right now. And I think a lot of the media that I have been trying to consume lately are things that are just about like anything else, right? Like when I have to engage with the news, like when I read it and like, or go on Twitter or whatever, like, that I'm getting my dose of what's going on right now. But like when I'm watching TV, when I'm watching a movie, when I'm listening to music, and I don't even listen to music a ton that much anymore. We'll talk about that in like our final thoughts. I have like the other music I've listened to, but I guess I've tried not to go to stuff that's like, or I've just, for whatever reason, I've like gone away from stuff that's like very about what's going on right now. Just because it's hard to be so tuned into it all the time. But on further listening, I was like, oh, I guess I do like how he's coming at this, right? Again, it sounds really good. The composition, it's a fully electronic album. He made it. One of the things he said in the article was he moved out of Brooklyn, right? He moved to upstate New York, so he doesn't have all access to all of his instruments while he was making it, right? Because he wasn't like fully moved in. So he only had access to like his computer and like some synthesizers and stuff, right? So like the album was by necessity something that was like fully electronic, right? Fully made on his computer. But yeah, it sounds amazing, and I think it does. It's not preaching, right? It's like, I think it is a little bit like there's a little bit of like self-flagellation in there, and that he's like not happy with himself, that he like took so long to come to these realizations, but he's also not like, he has like some right, there is some like room for him to like forgive himself for that, or like some compassion for it. But yeah, so The Ascension by Sufjan Stevens, really good. Even Angela likes some of it. All right, great. So we are going to take a short break, and we'll be back with our final thoughts for the episode. All right, welcome back. We are here with our final thoughts. Before we get to what we have been sort of enjoying this week, after last episode, I needed to finish Oxenfree, which I did this week. And so here's what happened. I didn't tell you this. So when I finished, like, the part I had gotten up to for the episode, I was headed to the house. I was headed to the old woman's house, right? Which is the point at which you can choose to leave the island and leave Clarissa behind, right? Leave one of the characters behind to be, for dead. And so I didn't do that. I sort of finished the game, but like in the back of my head the whole time was like, I know how Angela's game, right? I know that Angela's game turned out that the lead character was stuck in like a time loop. And I was like, I'm going to do it right. That's not going to happen to her, right? So this is like playing in the back of my head. So I'm like going through the whole game. They get off the island. Clarissa's there. No, Michael's not back. I didn't get to that, but Clarissa's there. Everyone's alive. She's like, she sounds very happy. She's, like, school's going okay. Her and Clarissa and Nona are like gonna go dress shopping for the prom. She's like looking at this picture. She's like, oh no, I think it might be. It's like after that actually, right? So that's like stuff that's happened while they're like getting off the island, and then the final scene of the game is she's looking at this picture and she's talking about how she's taking a year off of school before she like goes to college, right? So she's graduated, she's taking a year off of school before she goes to college. And then you have like one final choice, right? You have like a final choice right at the end. Do you remember this?
I just said that maybe not. Keep on going.
So she's like, yeah. So she's like, you get the sense that she's graduated, but then I think the final choice is she's graduated, she's taking a year off, but I think the final choice is she goes to college in town, she like gets a job in town, or she like leaves town, right?
Oh, yeah, okay, I got that.
That's the final choice that I made, and I was like, oh, like, Michael was gonna leave town, I think maybe there's something symbolic. So I picked like she was leaving town. And I was so sure at this point. I was like, I beat this game, right? Everyone's ending up happy. And then she's like, yeah, and I'm gonna leave town and go to college. And then she's like, but tonight I gotta catch the ferry to go with Ren to the island. And it's like, oh my god. Oh, so I was like, not only is that super depressing, but I also did no better than you. Not, which is a stupid thing to think for this game, but so that's what happened. And so now I guess seeing that, I'm very curious, because like, so I'm like, I have like two competing thoughts. I'm like, I want to figure out how to make one of the other endings happen, but going back through, I'm like, I honestly don't know how I'm like, I think I would just make all this like very similar decisions. Like I played that game. I think I really ended up playing that game as me. Like I made the decisions I wanted to make.
Right. Right. Yeah. Did you? Okay, so when there's a flashback and Michael's like, "Should I leave town?" What did you tell him? Did you tell him he should?
I told him he should, because he wants to. Yeah,
that was the thing,
right?
But that was the thing.
He shouldn't leave town.
If you tell him not to leave town, then like they won't take that trip to the beach that one day, which means he won't ever die.
Okay.
And then like snowball effect, a bunch of other stuff happens and everyone's fine.
So
I think like there's like other things involved, but I know that's a big one. Where, like
okay.
you're supposed to not encourage him to leave, which I did too. So
yeah. So I guess that brings up another point about this game, which is like very. I mean, I guess that's kind of implying that the characters are like stuck, right? Like, or that there's like, right, or there's like very severe consequences for trying to leave, right? Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I that's something I gotta like that. Knowing that kind of like puts a different spin on the game, right? Because like now it's right because if that's true, then the game is sort of what is the game saying about people like or like people trying to change?
Like you shouldn't try to leave your town.
Well, it's not that. I would imagine they're not saying that, but it's there's consequences for the people left behind or something. Yeah, I'd have to think about that. That's interesting. Okay, so that's Oxenfree. We're gonna play another video game pretty soon.
I started to play. I got the first chapter of Life is Strange.
Okay, on Switch?
No, Calvin brought his PC.
Oh, so okay, nice. Is that well? Let's get into what we've been sort of enjoying this week. What have you got for us?
Me?
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of MasterChef Junior, and then I started watching Hell's Kitchen because I got annoyed by the kids, and now I'm watching MasterChef. So I guess I've just been digesting a lot of Gordon Ramsay content. I've been enjoying it. I follow him on TikTok now.
How does MasterChef Junior compare to the one with the adult, like the normal one with the adults?
It's definitely more straightforward.
Okay.
Like the kids already have the apron. 2 people leave at a time. There's a lot more crying. The kids get to keep their aprons. The chefs are nicer, but like also like kid contestants are obviously different from adult contestants, and it's just funny. And there's always like that one kid where it's like, I feel like you're gonna grow up to be a bully.
Is he nicer? Like, do they?
He is so nice.
He's so nice. Okay, good. I was gonna say, like, is that? I guess is the tone of the show is different. I assume.
Yeah, it's so much more playful. Like they have like for each season they have like a thing where, like the kids either get to like shove pies in the judges' faces or like do something like stupid.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah. But also, like, I've never seen Hell's Kitchen before, and I just started watching, like, the first 3 episodes. I'm like, it's intense.
So, I would recommend... So, he did a season of Hell's Kitchen in Europe before he brought it to the US. And someone uploaded all of those to YouTube.
Oh.
And I much prefer the ones in Europe. He's like the ones in the US is just like everyone is shouting at each other.
Yeah, it just feels like a trashy reality show.
It is. It absolutely is. The ones in Europe are like, I find them like much more interesting. I feel like he really, you see him like teaching people how to like cook a lot more in those ones. But also he's going all over, like there's a lot of them in England, but he's going to like Paris, he's going to Spain, he's going all over to like oftentimes like really tiny pretty tiny restaurants. So he's just dealing with like a 1 or 2 personalities, right? Or sometimes he's even like, it's interesting, he's dealing with like really old restaurants, right? And like people who don't want to change, right? Because I don't know. I much prefer those.
Wait, are you talking about Kitchen Nightmares?
Yeah, wait, yes. I'm talking about Kitchen
Nightmares. I was talking about Hell's Kitchen.
You're talking about Hell's Kitchen. That's the one where that's the one
where there's just like a bunch of like there's a red team and a blue team, and then like they open up a restaurant, and then like so far as I've seen, they haven't gotten past the entrees, and everyone just leaves without eating.
Oh, well, either way, I would suggest the European version of Kitchen Nightmares on YouTube. I think it shows.
Yeah, Kitchen Nightmares is great.
I think it shows like a little bit of a different side of Gordon Ramsay, where he's not just a shouty asshole all the time, right? I think it's, but yeah, nice. Okay, so for me, my recommendation is it's two things kind of. So, and it's music related. One of them is the soundtrack to the game Outer Wilds. By Outer Wilds is a space exploration game, where you're exploring this like small solar system, and you come across people on the planets in the solar system, and all of them are like playing instruments, right? And it's so like music is very tied up into the narrative of the game, but the soundtrack is just like amazing. It's like the main theme is like this banjo theme, and it's just like it like guts me every single time. It's like this so beautiful because it's like it. I don't know why it works because it's space, but it's like space banjo. It shouldn't work, but it does. It's really good. It's the composer's Andrew Prelo, and it's the Outer Wilds soundtrack, because there's also a game called Outer Worlds. That game's not that good. Outer Wilds soundtrack. And then the second thing is MP3 players. So I've like started running again recently, and I really miss my iPod Nano, like the little square one that had the click wheel on it.
Yeah.
And they don't make those anymore. So I found like a SanDisk MP3 player, right? Like the only thing you can do is put like audio files on it, and it just, has a really tiny screen and buttons. So yeah, I think I found it for $30, and I'm just really, because I don't want to take my phone running. Like I'm not gonna do that. I don't like doing that. I'm worried about it getting like sweaty because I sweat a lot. So yeah, so I'm really enjoying having like an old school MP3 player, and I wish Apple still made the iPod Nano, because I would buy one. But yeah, so that's us for this week.
I just looked at what we're doing next week. Yeah. I'm very excited. I feel like King of Staten Island. I feel like we're definitely a little bit tardy to that party, because it's been a minute since it released.
Yeah. No, that's gonna be good. I've been looking forward to seeing that movie, and I know you've seen it already. So you gotta watch it again, or
I'll watch it again. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah. So next week we'll be back with King of Staten Island. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.